Yeah. The problem with wikia getting transitioned to fandom and then the wikia versions getting shut down is that the fandom version is like totally locked down. So one of the selling points of Wikipedia was that anybody could edit it, essentially. It was never fully open, but you didn't need an account. Okay, well, one of the reasons I like the Wikia versions is that it was basically the same as Wikipedia. Well, the fandom versions, which apparently were just, the in the process of being updated Wikia versions, are locked down. And they've been progressively more locked down over several years now. So one of them, for example, was the painkiller wiki. Uh, in the last couple years, I think, year or two, apparently the comment section on the fandom page got moved to discuss or whatever with a Q in it, I think, however you spell it. It's so locked down that they won't even let you see those comments on the wiki page without making an account and signing in. So it's like, all right, well then fuck it. I guess I don't get to see them then. And I'm just sitting there thinking, why is it doing that on fandom, but not Wikipedia? It didn't do that on Wikia, which was basically just kind of like a different form of Wikipedia. But like to the point to where on the fandom pages, and even some of the ones that still are listed as like Wikia or whatever, or .wiki, Wikipedia is just a form of wiki. Um, they won't let you see the page history, right? So you can't even look at an old version of the page. They won't let you see the discussion or like the talk tab of the page. And then the what used to be public comment section at the bottom, they lock down, right? Like it's actually telling on the Deus Ex version that I go to sometimes, mostly to look up the keypad codes and all that. It's kind of why I brought up the Deus Ex stuff and Deus Ex in an earlier part of this little series here, because I was thinking of that. I was looking at the keypad codes in the game. I don't ever remember. I was just, what's the fucking elevator thing? You know what I mean? I know for a fact in the past you could see all that shit. And then one of the biggest things I always liked about those Wikia articles, you know, or like, wiki sites for video games, is you go to the page for a level or an item or character or whatever. And the big thing for me was scrolling down to the bottom to read the trivia section, but also to read the, the kind of little discussion that was at the bottom. And I know for a fact that, 5-ish years ago, or especially 10 years ago, most of those sections you could just leave a comment on, right? Like, just anonymously. And if I look at old archives of like Blogger or Blogspot archive, blogs, you know, now, of course now they're closed, but well, I mean it's an archive, and even if ones that are still up, right? I'll see ones that are still living technically, but it says the comments are closed. Do I know for a fact that they used to be just totally open? Now maybe some of them you can just make up a username or make up an email or this. I don't even want to do that. Just let me post anonymously, you know. But the problem is, so half of the fun of reading the wikis on these video games was to get to see the living discussion going on. Like one of them I was trying to look up was so apparently the more recent Deus Ex games kind of misrepresent the Stanton Dowd character from the first game. And I remember being able to read the discussion at the bottom of it even like a year ago. And they were talking about, yeah, so apparently there's some kind of myth that Stanton Dowd did like banking for the Knights Templar or something. And that got added into the later games. And I specifically explicitly remember one of the responses to whoever said that being something about how that was proof that art is a dialogue, right? And just how it's, kind of molded by people's interpretations. Um, I can't see that now because they want to, they want to login wall it, right? Paywall, login wall. They want to wall it off arbitrarily like that. But that happened to me for one of the painkiller wiki pages. So I had noticed that the train board in the train station level mentions a guy called Moniuszko, and how I was pretty sure that was a reference to a Polish composer. And I remember checking the wiki in the past, and there was no mention. But then a couple years ago, or a few years ago, I replayed the game. I noticed somebody had actually added that on the trivia or comment section part of it, and I'd never seen anybody else mention it before. But it had been added before I had it had been a couple years since I last checked the wiki, and it got added somewhere in that interim, right? So I figured this out. I don't know how I missed it for 20 years, but because I started playing the game in 2004 release day, right? Played the hell out of the demo till it came out, but somehow I never put two and two together on it. Well, now I can't even kind of double verify that because they walled off the fucking comment section. So like I can't even go look at that again. I mean, maybe I've got an archive somewhere. Okay, well, good luck trying to figure out, ascertain that, right? And the reason I figured out now it's totally walled off is because a while back I had thought about it again, and I was kind of researching it to, again, look to see if anybody else had mentioned it. And then I found out I didn't even realize this, but back in 2019, apparently the main train station, it's actually the one in Warsaw, I think, they actually renamed it moniuszko station or something like that, in Poland. So I was actually going to edit the wiki page to put that into the trivia section. Well, they won't let me. And it's bro, holy fuck, I could improve your fucking wiki pages so much if you would just let me I don't even care if it would have my fucking IP there. They had that anyway. You don't need any more identification than that, dude. And it's double stupid that as the fandom pages, so they phased out wikia. Now it's just fandom, and the fandom pages are getting more and more locked down over time, while at the same time, I just noticed recently that regular ass Wikipedia now has a function where you can comment anonymous or make edits anonymously without creating an account. And unlike in the past, where it would show your IP address, it just shows a randomly generated account name. Dude, I was literally doing that just to fix typos, the other day when I found out you could do that now. Hopefully, Jimmy Wales quits being an idiot and puts that ability back into fandom or whatever. So it's truly just, a different version of Wikipedia, but for stuff that's more specific. Because I would love to do that. I'm not sitting here trying to vandalize pages, dude. They're stupid e-begging shit's vandalism. But, a lot of these video games, there's so much factual errors I could correct, spelling mistakes I could correct, trivia stuff that I could add, and this and that. And it's they actually want to make themselves worse off by just not letting me just fucking do it without an account. So I don't know. And I'm just going to wrap this up. There's no rhyme or reason to these. I'm just venting. And so whatever. I just want to be finished with this. So, as usual, this is everything with technology. And part of my reason for appreciating Invisible War, even though some people consider it lazy storytelling, I actually think it's pretty brilliant storytelling. Where basically Invisible War shows that nothing you did in the first game counted for anything, right? Or more importantly, it was going to happen even without your input. That's a realistic story. But there's a lot of meta narrative and, you kind of, just stuff like that. Storytelling in Invisible War that I think is actually top notch and even better than the original, but I don't have the time or capability or wherewithal to do it at this point, or I might never, with how things are now, not just in this world but in my own life. So whatever, but just as those games show and just modern technology show, as usual, just the way this fucking set of videos right here is going to end, not with a bang but a whimper, right? That's your transition from the first game to Invisible War. Oh, stuff was just kind of whatever, and like now you're here, right? So it's just life. It's sort of like Invisible War. It was really big on the kind of like game within a game stuff, right? Or story within the story. Like Pequods versus Queequegs being a euphemism for the main factions in the game, or you see like a lot of the narrative. You see kind of the soul of that kind of comes out of the Hong Kong part of the original game. Hong Kong itself kind of be, for the first one, essentially that's its, story within the story. Um, but Invisible War is sort of like a kind of meta narrative retelling of the first game. And I don't know, there's just the way that they kind of, layer the stuff like that. Actually, I think it works really well. More importantly, it shows you just how fucking futile your own actions are. But, a lot of people didn't like the closed off, kind of claustrophobic nature of the second game. But essentially being developed by motherfuckers who made the PS2 version, I'm not surprised it turned out how it did, level design wise. However, also another thing I like about it is that, it has density instead of, like, I don't care if levels are really big. The actual overall mission areas are basically the same size. It's just Invisible War has more load transitions. But as far as the kind of scale um, of any particular section and just the density of stuff that you can do in each of those sections, the soul of that, in my opinion, comes from the gas station level in the original game. The station level is like possibly my favorite part of the whole game. For the same reasons I love the Invisible War so much. It's a pretty small level, but there's just so much to do, right? You know, so very dense on the interactivity, just geometrically and structurally, right? You can crawl through here and there, and every shelf has a soda can on it, and just little stuff like that that just really appeals to me. And I'm sort of like claustrophilic, right? Like the compactness and density actually appeals to me. Kind of like feeling like I'm Serial Experiments Lane, just piled up with technology all around me. That's the way I used to feel. But like that part in the Tarsus Academy of Invisible War where the girls are like hiding in the vents or whatever. Just like little hideouts like that, like Condemned Criminal Origins or even Blood 2 had shit like that. I was always fascinated by shit like that. But a lot of it is, in my opinion, Invisible War, in a lot of ways, took the best parts of Deus Ex and made it the whole game. So why so many individuals don't like it, I have no idea. I could speculate, but on this particular set of videos, I'm done for now. I'm almost out of time on this one, and yeah, I just feel like to be done with it. I might not even bother taking a shower tonight. I'm just like I was going to. I'm just exhausted. I might just sit there playing Deus Ex and then play Invisible War. I don't know, but I'm